I think that when looking at any type of representation, it's very important to think about the context in which it was made. And this includes not only the person who's represented, if it's represented by a third party, this changes depending on if the relationship between the one who's portraying and the one who's portrayed is a close relationship, or it's a distant relationship, if it's a romantic relationship, if it's a relationship that has some kind of power associated with it. I think that there certainly is a power in representation.
Unas voces en la calle me gritaron negra, 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 negra.
Photographing other people, there's a negotiation, I think, that has to happen, whether that is direct or indirect. And I think that you can make great photographs in any of those modes, but I think you have to think about who and why you're photographing. And I think in the recent years, there's become more and more an attention to making sure that the person being photographed is part of the conversation.
I think that there's a change in representation once women started to gain access to institutions. Well, having sort of lived through the 60s and 70s and 80s, I think there definitely was a feeling of greater freedom in representation, a freedom of both using one's body for art, dealing with women's issues that had previously been taboo. Certainly content opened up to women's imagery and women's body processes in a way that it never had before. So all of that was really a kind of a watershed moment. And some of that art is still really not in museums.
When you look at some of the most well-known women artists in the history of art, we still have a long way to go to kind of reflect, the multiplicity of voices that exist. But, people like Cindy Sherman and Barbara Kruger, these are people that I think really did, have a very important voice. But, we do look at somebody like Barbara Kruger, who has not had, a major solo exhibition in the United States still until this day.
I know we've talked a lot about women per se. We haven't talked so much about how that engages ideas of sexuality at all, but I think it's an exciting moment to think about queer artists who are working, and how they're also pushing to open up gender norms as well. And we can think about artists from Zanele Muholi, for instance, who is documenting queer and trans women in South Africa, and literally making that be a project about visibility. To take a picture of this individual means this individual existed on the planet.
And the other piece is a series that Hannah Wilkie did in about 1993 when she was dying of cancer. She was only 52, and she documented herself in very, very brutal and difficultly honest portraits, because she was willing to show what happens with the ravages of time and disease, and to let go that vanity and encourage other women in doing so to look at this phenomenon, to stare it in the face, and to realize that that kind of beauty is ephemeral, and that there are many more facets to the body that are ugly or that are troublesome or painful or difficult. And I really regard that honesty of that gesture as so admirable.